Hi there. So we're continuing our discussion about what is in a Feldenkrais awareness through movement lesson, and I have another thing to share with you today. Sometimes we use a little bit of anatomy to help flesh out an image that gives us an opportunity to feel something different in a movement. For instance, if we were working with the shoulder joint, we might look briefly at something like that. And then we might look at this image here. So this is an image of moving the arm in the air while lying on the back, with the idea that when the arm goes inward towards the midline, the force through the joint actually moves outward to the outer part of the joint. When the arm goes outward away from the midline, the force actually moves inward towards the spine. And just like the image of the mortars and pestles there. So when we move in that way, the images can really fill out the details and make the moving clearer. So if I were to come down and do that movement, or a brief snippet of that movement, it would be that I'd begin, I think I'm just going to show you with one arm. I would begin with the idea that I had a string that was holding my arm in the air, and that string could pull me towards the ceiling, so my shoulder blade would peel away from the floor and back down into the floor, so that my scapula, my shoulder blade, would flatten into the floor, and I could feel the head of my humerus bone, that's the long upper arm bone, rest in the socket. So after doing that multiple times, taking rests when needed, doing both sides, then I would start to think about the image of the arm as a searchlight, like the beam of a searchlight. And I would start to draw a circle on the ceiling or in the sky. And you'll notice that when I begin, if you look very carefully and I go very slowly, that there are actually places where my movement jerks, and places where I speed up, and places where I slow down, and places where it's not a circle, but more like an angle that I'm making. So if I use the imagery and think about when my arm goes out, the force into my joint moves towards the midline, and when I go in, my hand goes in, the force in the joint goes away from the midline, and if I go up towards the wall above my head, the force drives down towards the pelvis, and if I go down towards my pelvis, the force in the joint is actually going the opposite way. I start to feel what's happening in the joint instead of just focusing on drawing a circle in the ceiling. Then I'm really paying attention to the support that the ground is providing me each time I change my trajectory. And you'll notice that the movement has not only slowed down a lot, but it's also quite a bit smoother. You can see that right around this part of the circle, we'll get there in a second, that's where I have a little confusion in my nervous system. And it probably has something to do with the fact that I'm a body worker and that my chest muscles are often quite tight and not as refined in their movement. And so how this would translate into life is that if I'm reaching, if I'm holding, if I'm reaching, if I can find the support through my shoulder joint into my spine, then I have much more efficient action, and I'm less likely to hurt myself. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and if you'd like to receive notifications of further videos, simply click the bell. Thank you.